Good morning, everyone. We're just about to start our exciting day, which is our budget day. So I'd like to call for apologies or leave of absence. I don't think we have any. So I'll move on to prayers. We don't have a minister, so I'm going to lead with the Lord's Prayer, if everyone would like to join in. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Also, this is NAIDOC week, so particularly want to acknowledge our traditional owners. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their communities, to land, sea and to their connections to community, and we pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Remember our own celebration tomorrow at Memorial Park, and I'd like to thank the councillors and the community who raised the flags in their respective towns at the start of this celebration of NAIDOC week. So I'd now like to move on to the declaration of interest, and I'll just hand over to CEO Mark. He's got a few points he wants to put forward.
Thanks, Mayor. With ordinary business, with the adoption of budget rates and charges and cost recovery fees, councillors, it's considered ordinary business under the Act. So ordinary business means that you do not have a conflict for this. There's been a couple of inquiries we received, so all councillors with the issues that have been raised are good. The issues that have been raised are not a conflict of interest because it is dealing with the budget rates and charges and cost recovery fees.
So thank you, CEO Mark. So now we'll move on to Finance and Corporate section, which is the adoption of the South Bend Regional Council Annual Operational Plan 2024-2025. Would someone like to move the adoption? Deputy Mayor Danita Potter. Someone to second that? Councillor Height. I'll just ask CEO Mark to speak to the operational plan.
Thank you, Mayor. The operational plan is an annual document that gives life to the corporate plan. Corporate plan is currently adopted to go through to 2026. So this is operational plan is a one-yearly sheet. Corporate plans are strategic. These are operational as per the name. There's a fairly large number of core tasks in the document, as well as individual projects that range across every section of the organisation. Operational plan must be adopted prior to the budget, and hence why it's first in line, and we'd commend it to council. The only other bit that is an operational plan can be amended, so it has quarterly reviews, but it also can be amended at any point during the year. And given the shortness, and if I may, with budgets, this is always the most difficult budget for a first council, because with the election and the statutory meeting only in April, it gives you a very short period of time to start to roll out your agenda. So these first budgets of any term are always in operational plans. First and second quarter reviews are always very important, and these documents will no doubt, conscious of using the cliches, but they're living documents. The old consultants have ruined a few words for us over the years, but yeah, so these will be a work in progress, and we'll continue to work through and refine into this term to roll out this term's agenda.
Thanks, CEO Mark. Would anyone like to speak to the operational plan? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Now we're moving on to item 6.2 on page 35, the adoption of South Bend Regional Council Debt Policy 2024-25 Statutory 01.0. Someone to move that? Councillor Height. Someone to second it? Councillor Little. Speakers would see General Manager Jarvis, would you like to speak to the council debt policy?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, Kathy. The debt policy is presented here. The highlight of the debt policy is that there won't be any new borrowings for this financial year. So and it also has a 10-year forecast of our intended borrowings going forward, so there won't be any borrowings to add to our loans.
So that's very good news. Yes. So any questions, speakers, or move that the operational plan be adopted? Oh, sorry, the debt policy be adopted. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. So now we're moving on to item 6.3, Mayor's Budget Address for 24-25 on page 42. So I'd like to present my first budget address as the new Mayor. Council is pleased to deliver the 2024-25 financial year budget, the first budget for this current term of Council. Our Council has a focus of delivering the essential and basic infrastructure and services for our diverse region in an increasingly difficult environment of external forces. It is my humble honour to present my first budget as the new Mayor. I'm pleased to have put it together with a great team of councillors and supportive staff. We are very much a back-to-basics council and have put together a budget that largely revolves around resealing some of our problem-sealed roads to reduce potholes. Our council is evaluating the hire of extra machinery such as a Flowcon unit for sealed road maintenance and extra resources such as rollers on the maintenance grading. We are delivering a longer-term strategy to purchase the machinery needed for the road network. We are also reviewing items including gravel pits and areas that we can make savings and reduce expenditure. I campaigned to try to keep rates affordable, and our team have kept the general rate rise to a modest 2% as we still have an operating deficit of approximately $3.5 million to contend with. The news that our council would again suffer a loss of funding through the financial assistance grants was not well received. Our council will continue to call for a full and transparent review of the grant methodology so that our community receives its fair share of the financial assistance grant from the state and Commonwealth governments into the future. Our council recognises that because of the most recent land revaluation, effective date the 30th of June 2022, some property owners will face significant increases in general rates as their property valuation has increased higher than the average. Council has decided to utilise the averaging tool set out in the Local Government Regulation 2012 to help to minimise the impact of valuation increases for these property owners for the third year in a row. Waste, wastewater and water are all separate business units and have various rises due mostly to meeting increased compliance of government regulations. A summary of these changes is 6% water access and consumption, 15% waste management levy, 6% waste collection including recycling, and 3% sewage charges. The requirement to expend significant capital funds to upgrade several landfills, increase compliance with waste disposal, and major water and wastewater upgrades are all driving costs upwards in these areas. Council will continue to lobby for funding from the state and federal government to support these major upgrades. The community has asked for improved water quality for our region, and as a start in this budget, Council has provided funding to air scour the water pipes in Kingaroy. I am pleased that our council has maintained the 10% discount for rates payment, as I see several councils now removing or reducing this discount. And both the community rescue and evacuation levy and the rural fire levy remain unchanged. Excuse me. We were fortunate again to receive Works for Queensland funding for $8.4 million. To ensure equity across the region, each councillor put forward projects for their division with a budget of $1.2 million distributed fairly across all divisions over the next 3 years. We do acknowledge and thank the Queensland State Government for this much needed funding. I would like to thank the councillors, CEO Mark, the senior executive and the whole team for your work in putting together this budget. But most importantly, thanks must go to you, the people of this beautiful region, for putting your faith in this new team to deliver this budget for you. Thank you and God bless. I'd now like to move my budget speech and ask Deputy Mayor Potter to second that and ask for any other speakers. Deputy Mayor Potter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. and a wonderful speech too. So, and everything you said in that was just perfect. So every year we are asked to say something about the budget, and every year I say the same thing. Budgets are the hardest part of this job because no matter what we do, there will always be those that don't agree and those that are in our community that will be struggling. This year for Division 3, we are starting the upgrades to the wastewater infrastructure so we can seriously look at expanding our town, and now with the new water storage being built in Mount Rural, we are looking better than ever. Over the next 2 years, we'll also be looking at curb and channels on the corner of the hospital in Youngman Street and in Markwell Street near Parkside Drive. This along with the drainage issues in Mant and Alfred Street, which will alleviate some of those issues in those areas. We will also be working in Alice Street in Kingaroy to finally fix those long-standing issues that the residents have had to deal with for many years. We do have a lot more happening in Division 3, and I have only mentioned a few of the things, but rest assured in the next year you will see progress being made. No decision is made easily, and for this reason we only had the 2% general rate rise. Yes, I would love to not raise the rates, but as would everyone sitting in this room feels. But there are some things that are not that simple, especially with the inflation rate being over 3% and the cost of some infrastructure and other items up by much more. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank CEO Mark Pitt, all the GMs and every single staff member for their great ideas, suggestions on savings, their late nights, early mornings, their weekends that they spent on this budget. And with the new council, as I've said before, it does not go unnoticed, and thank you all again from the bottom of my heart. To my fellow councillors, thank you for making these hard decisions with me, and thank you, Madam Mayor, for being a great role model and leader with a wonderful heart. Thank you again, everyone, and I look forward to the next year with you all.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. And so true that the staff were there on Sunday, on the 30th of June, working long hours to make sure that this budget was how it needed to be. So thank you very much to the staff, and particularly in the finance team. Now, any other speakers? Councillor Erkins.
The wrong way around in the book. Along with my fellow councillors, I've had a busy time meeting to discuss budgets, rates, fees and charges, and balancing the books. This time of year is quite difficult because while councillors are very aware of how difficult it is for communities with inflation and the high cost of living at the moment, we are reminded by responsible staff that there are books to be balanced. As has been mentioned many times, water and sewerage are standalone businesses within council, and residents are aware of the many issues we have with water, broken pipes, discoloured waters being just two of these issues that affect residents and add to the cost of providing water. Another service which we are heavily bound by through state legislation is waste management. We have problems in all waste locations with heavy costs and penalties imposed to comply with these legislations and to deal with environmental issues. It's not easy to make these decisions. However, all councillors know and appreciate they have a responsibility to the ratepayers to ensure they act in the best interests of the region and also to make sure we remain viable. Mayor Cathy stressed numerous times during our budget meetings with council managers that she had promised during her campaign to make savings to keep rates affordable. Council staff worked diligently with councillors to cut costs wherever possible, and this enabled the rateable component to be kept at a 2% increase. This was done by painfully going through services one by one to see where efficiencies could be made. However, rising costs did mean many of our fees and services did incur an increase. An example would be pool entrance fees and libraries. I'm sure our residents understand the cost of maintaining the pools, and the cost of providing these facilities has been debated many times. As a councillor, I received many requests re the conditions of roads. And while I'm pushing for roads to be graded to a higher level, and not so often, we do have a budget to work within. Many sections and departments of council are understaffed, and I appreciate the hard work being put in by them and allowing us to keep the rate rise to 2%. I would like to thank CEO Mark Pitt and all staff for their support and contribution to working with us to ensure we maintain services at a most affordable figure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Erkinson. I love your passion for our community and for our region. So thank you, and again acknowledging the staff for your hard work. Any other speakers? Councillor Little.
Thank you, Mayor. Since becoming the Division 2 councillor, a major focus over the past 3 months has been delivering a budget that is fair and equitable as possible for our ratepayers and residents. As part of Mayor Duff's promise to keep rates affordable, the councillors and senior staff have worked hard to deliver a modest rise of 2%. I also acknowledge that the rising cost of living is impacting everyone in the community, and I have always kept that in mind when deciding the best way to get value for money in the budget. There have been changes to fees and charges that are separate to the general rates that have seen some increases across the board. To keep these fees to the absolute minimum has been a challenge, with many discussions between councillors and operational staff. To cover the cost of supplying the level of service you expect from a responsible council, some tough decisions had to be made. We have been advised of the legislative conditions that are imposed on council, and these conditions require upgrades to our waste facilities. These upgrades are long overdue and come at a cost to council. Unfortunately, this new council has the challenge of delivering these upgrades within our budget deliberations. We take our environmental obligations very seriously, and I believe that that is reflected in our decisions. There was also extensive damage done to our Kingaroy wastewater treatment plant over the Christmas period, and that now means that this council is responsible for the repair costs. Our wastewater treatment staff have been working tirelessly to get the treatment plant working at full capacity, and we appreciate their hard work and efforts. On a more positive note, our focus has been on providing the funding to get our roads resealed, potholes fixed, and gravel roads graded. This is an ongoing focus, and we have all advocated for the problem areas of our councillor divisions. I believe we have all made the right compromises to make the South Burnett the best it can be, and the road upgrades will continue over the next 4 years. This year, the councillors and mayor were allocated $1.2 million from the Works for Queensland funding. I am happy to report that the Division 2 funds will be spent over 3 years in the following way. Bunya Mountains will get their Dundabar car park footpath completed. Blackbutt, Morris Street upgrade to bitumen seal. Banarkin, footpath from the State School through to the recreational park. And the Blackbutt Skate Park will have a construction of a public toilet facility. As part of the capital expenditure 3-year allocation to Division 2, funds have been allocated to complete the following. Maidenwell, upgrade the waste transfer station and roadwork upgrade to the entrance. Again at Maidenwell, we'll replace the hall rainwater tank. Blackbutt, replace timber signage and upgrades to the customer service centre. Banarkin will see the installation of stage 3 of the park and install a flying fox. Roads, infrastructure spending to reseal, grade and upgrade roads across the division. All of these projects are important to the residents of the communities in Division 2, and I look forward to seeing them delivered over this term of council. Wherever we can, we will be looking for further opportunities from the federal and state governments for allocated funding and grant-funded money to allow us to achieve more for the South Burnett. I'm looking forward to continuing to serve Division 2 and, with your help, making the right decisions for our region. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Little. It was great to have the trip yesterday to for all the councillors to go out to Blackbutt and Banarkin and Maidenwell. It was really good to see the enthusiasm of the community. So thank you for that trip.
Welcome.
Councillor Erkins, you've still got your light on. Did
Oh,
you?
sorry.
Councillor Deneen.
Thanks, Mayor Duff. It's been both a challenge and a pleasure to be involved with my first budget as a councillor for Division 4 with the South Burnett Regional Council. The challenge is how to create the type of community benefits and appropriate infrastructure that we hope to deliver for the residents of the South Burnett while embracing the ever-increasing and diverse visitors we welcome to our beautiful region. The pleasure has been that we as councillors are working with extremely skilled and dedicated group of people who are the key to our business in the South Burnett Regional Council. Our staff are always generous in their willingness to ensure that every facet of the budget is discussed again, and that we can do the very best we can with the funding that we have. One of the highlights in the short time we've been together as a council has been the Works for Queensland funding, which has allowed us to allocate those dollars to important projects. These included much needed trunk infrastructure that will allow Kingaroy to continue to grow, park development that will assist Carroll, Koo and Adamant Park and create a playground area at Memrambi, a footpath continuation on Coral Street, a planning project for community spaces, median upgrades in Kingaroy and ceiling works on Reduns Road, Buoy. They're part of, and they will be delivered over the next 3 years. The delivery of the budget that depends on the resilient reliance of our ratepayers, grants and other levels of government funding combined with the current forecast and always changing legislation is only doable because we work together. Thank you to all involved. The additional increases in some sections of our rates and services over the next few years allow Council to make further inroads into the core business of the South Burnett Regional Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Deneen. And we really value your contribution, and you seem to have taken on the role as if you were an old stayer. So thank you. Councillor Sander.
When elected, I stated that I wanted to reduce waste within council to make savings and to reduce the financial burden on ratepayers. After taking office on the 4th of April 2024, my fellow councillors and I have had multiple meetings and received information in regards to issues that council face in the coming years. We have had 3 months to bring in the new budget and trying to work on cost-saving procedures that are doable for this financial year. The following 4 years will be tough in making sure we can continue to cut costs, yet still provide a high level of service. We as a council have agreed to keep any new projects to a minimum for this term so we can focus on our current basic assets to bring them up to a standard that is acceptable. Our residents also deserve to drive on our road network without destroying their cars. This term of council will see an increase in road maintenance and our reseal program. Our community deserves to have quality drinking water, reliable waste collection and playgrounds and amenities that are all well maintained and usable for the community. During this term of council, we will be focusing on these areas also. I also stated during my election that if I got into council, I would push to reduce consultants and increase council staff to take on their roles. I also wish to promote training of current employees so that we can keep people in our region and employ local residents to have the local economy thrive. I would like to thank the state government for the Works for Queensland W4Q funding, as this has given each councillor an opportunity, and in Division 5, to create projects such as 2 new cabins at each recreation park, curb and channelling in Mergen, a dump point and showers at Hyesville, and bollards and power upgrades to the Proston Park at no cost to ratepayers. I would like to thank my fellow councillors and the SBRC staff and CEO Mark Pitt for their hard work and countless hours in keeping the rate rise to a minimum for what was earmarked to be quite a significant rise coming into this position of Division 5 councillor.
Thanks, Councillor Sander. We really appreciate as a team, and I've heard the other councillors say it too, that your knowledge, particularly in the roads area, and I'm sure that GM Aaron. It's not going to get away with anything. All the drains are going to be perfect. And yeah, so thank you for your contribution. Councillor Height.
Thank you, lucky last. So Division 6. This new term of councillors has worked really hard to bring down a budget that is as equitable and fair as can be. It's fantastic to have a cooperative and cohesive team working together for the betterment of the whole region. We all agree that times are tough and we need to focus on essential services to minimise excessive rate rises in these uncertain times. I'm very pleased that we're focusing on road rehabilitation to ensure transport for businesses is unimpeded, as well as for improved livability of the region. The works for Queensland monies were very gratefully received. As by far the largest division, the 1.2 million for Division 6 has had to be spread rather thinly across one town and 6 villages, but I have tried to spend some monies in each village, including repairs to Wandai's Coronation Park playground, plan and start drainage works for Tingura Township, addressing a drainage issue at Crawford, footpath repairs at Waroolan, signage and possibly a memorial at Geelong, a caravan dump point at Cumbia, and with the assistance of Councillor Deb Deneen of Division 4, a playground for Memorambi, which is a very small village which has very few facilities. I'm pleased that the playground softball will be replaced in Waroolan and Wandai. There will be improvements to Wandai's transfer station and aerodrome lights, all of which will improve these assets and prolong their life. It's frustrating that the other 2 tiers of government continue to push more costs onto council and to our ratepayers, especially when more and more onerous regulations are imposed on us for waste, water and wastewater facility maintenance with no consideration of these additional costs. And then to reduce the federal assistance grant to our council. It's tough being the lowest tier of government. I'd like to thank my fellow councillors, CEO Mark and all the council staff for the work they do each and every day to make our great region even greater. And I look forward to delivering on this budget during this financial year and continuing to enhance our lovely region. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Height, and thank you for letting us all know that you've got the biggest division across the region in case we forget at any point. And yeah, no, it's been good. It's been good. I'd like to thank the councillors for all working together. I think we've got a wonderful team going forward, and I look forward to the next 4 years. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank the senior staff, GM Susan and Kerry in finance, GM Aaron, and thank you for your contribution towards getting probably the largest section, the roads. You're always on it, making sure that we get enough money to deliver on the roads. And acting GM Leanne, thank you for your contribution to parks and gardens and facilities. You're always passionate and know everything backwards. If we ask you a question, you're right on it. So thank you for your contribution. I'd also like to thank Linnell and Helen for just sitting there and putting this all together continuously. You do a wonderful job. And also like to thank Kirsty down the back. She does the media. She's put together media packs and she's done an amazing job. Thank you sincerely. And also like to thank the media, Anne, and I hope that David's doing well. And I'd like to thank Jessica too from South Burnett today. So thank you for your contribution, because what you put in the media is how we look. So thank you for coming, and I'm just hoping that you have a positive report on this and and put the positive slant on it. But thank you, and I'd also like to particularly thank CEO Mark, because he controls the operational side of it. The councillors are the high level strategic, but the CEO is in charge of the operations, and I look forward to the next period of time. And I know that we are going to, as has been said, get as much as higher services as we can, and continue to keep the rates as low as possible, because that's always been my plan over the last 20 years, was always to keep the services up and the rates down. So I think that we've delivered a budget that has done just that. So looking forward to the next this year and the next 4 years. So thank you. And with that, I'll ask, we've had the mover. I moved it, and seconded was Deputy Mayor Potter. All those to put to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So now we move on to item 6.4, which is the adoption of the 24-25 budget on page 43. So I'll ask General Manager Jarvis to speak to the overall budget.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. I'm delighted to present the South Burnett Regional Council's 24-25 annual budget. The budget shows the allocation of funds to meet our operational plan for the 24-25 period. The budget and operational plan together set out our priorities for the financial year and provides residents, businesses and community groups the foundations needed to plan with confidence. Council's budget has been delivered in a time of economic uncertainties, including the soaring increases in the cost of living, strong land valuations and ongoing supply chain issues. The rate increase of 5.75% compared to rates and charges levied in the 23-24 year. This percentage includes natural growth in the number of rateable properties, number of water and sewage connections, changes to water consumption volume, and changes to the number of waste collection services. These rates and charges assist Council to continue its long-term work of delivering a wide range of services while preparing our regions for the opportunities that lay ahead. Tailored to the challenging times we're all experiencing, this budget demonstrates Council's focus and commitment to financial and operational sustainability and has been tailored under the instructions from the Mayor and the councillors to deliver an essential and back-to-basis budget. The budget at a glance contains an operating budget of $84.7 million, up from $81.3 million in 23-24, capital expenditure budget of $39.8 million, no new borrowings in 24-25, and a projected overall operating deficit of $3.6 million, moving to surplus in 28-29. I'd like to take this opportunity to sincerely thank the Mayor and councillors for their direction and active participation in the preparation of this budget. Thanks also is afforded to the Executive Management Team, the Senior Management Team and the South Burnett Regional Council staff who have assisted and contributed to the development and delivery of this budget. It would be remiss of me not to give special thanks to my finance team of accountants, capably led by amazingly talented Manager of Finance and Sustainability, Kerry Anderson. These staff, including my executive assistant, Wendy Kruger, have put in endless long hours away from their families to deliver this error-free and responsible budget. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to this, the first mayoral budget for you, Mayor Cathy, and also the first budget for several of the newly elected councillors. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager Susan. Did any of the other senior staff want to say anything? Jim.
Through you, Madam Mayor. No, I just wanted to acknowledge the teamwork of the council and the executive and the management team right across the board for the budget. The team on my end with the managers putting together their workshops in short space of time, but also responding to requests to be able to give council the right information. I think they've done a tremendous job and with their support team. So I wish the council well for this budget, and hopefully this will be our best year.
Thank you. Acting GM Leanne.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, once again, thanks to the staff. There has been a lot of work behind the scenes, and as Aaron has mentioned, in a very short time frame, we've been able to go away and do the relevant research and bring back the information to assist council. So well done to those teams, and look forward to the next 12 months.
Thank you. So I'd like to move the adoption of the budget. Someone to second that? Deputy Mayor Potter. Are we ready to vote? All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So now we're moving on to item 6.5, statements of estimated financial position to 30th of June 2024 on page 111. So this Office's recommendation is that pursuant to Section 205 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the statement of the financial operations and financial position, including capital expenditure of the Council in respect of the previous financial year, the statement of estimated financial position be received and its contents noted. So I'd like someone to move that. Councillor Deneen. Someone to second that. Councillor Little. Speakers. CEO Mark.
Thanks, Mayor, and just in speaking to this one, I would acknowledge the general managers and the councillors for the way everyone worked. As I said, with the operational plan, this is one of the most difficult budgets to bring down, and it certainly is a combination of legacy issues from the previous term and starting to roll out the new term's priorities, and there is that crossover. The statement of financial position is there will be a quite comprehensive press release or media statement come out. We sat through these chambers as we do zero-based budgeting. We go through a whole range of workshops. There's 20-odd workshops in a 2-month period. So we spent anything from 2 to 3 days a week in the chamber over the last 2 months trying to come down with the budget. Council was quite clear in its direction as to pull back, so cost savings have been found in the wages budget of approximately just over $3 million, a whole range of different areas. General rates were kept at 2%. And then on Friday, the 28th of June, after the Australian Local Government Association and the LGAQ Local Government Association of Queensland, for a considerable period of time, requesting of both state and Commonwealth governments some advice on the financial assistance grant. Last year, Council received 100% of that grant in advance, and it was a kerfuffle at that point of time with those other levels of government. So on Friday, the 28th of June, at about 10 o'clock in the morning, a media statement was issued, because we seem to have government by media these days, that we would be getting an advance payment of 85% this year. So this is about the 4th year in a row they've changed the percentage. It's about the 4th year in a row they've changed the timing of this grant. And it would be for the 23-24 year, but we wouldn't pay it till next year, which is the 24-25 year. Why that's important, because by the state and Commonwealth and the Australian finance standards, own accounting standards, we can't accrue that grant into the year. It has to be managed in the year that it actually lands in the bank account. Good old cash accounting back in the day, because it's an operational grant. So then we had to wait to Tuesday, the 2nd of July, to find out that they'd cut our financial assistance grant by $600,000. So your entire 2% general rate rise was just wiped out in one fell swoop by the other 2 levels of government. So we actually go backwards. And it's grossly unfair to this council, it's grossly unfair to this community, and it's grossly unfair to every council in Australia that they moved it out of the financial year. The only good thing about it is it's now at least back. It's been since 2010-11 they've been paying in advance. And it's been about, it started off at 50%. The intention was very good in the day, back over a decade ago, natural disasters, and bring a little bit of a cash payment forward to help some of the smaller councils with their cash flow. That's why it ended up in advance. Absolutely great idea, help the smaller guys out. It makes no material difference to our cash position, because we park ours in reserve and then release it over the period of time. But some of the smaller councils do require it for cash flow. We are requested to have, and one of the ones that has annoyed me, and I've spoken to council over a long period of time, is provisioning. So they now have got us provisioning for landfills over 30 years. We've got 10 years financial. The landfill provisioning ones has put $1.5 million onto our bottom line for to meet accounting standards. It has not actually improved our landfills. It hasn't changed our landfills. It hasn't actually assisted us in our landfills. It's an accounting standard that we now meet. Over 2 financial years has added $1.5 million to our bottom line in cost that we continue to try and chase up. So you take that immediately off your deficit, all of a sudden 3.5 becomes $2 million for those government decisions. Now, there's a lot of people that sit in offices in Brisbane and different places and think these rules up. It's an area that continue, but for other levels of government to drop it on an Australia-wide on councils across the country. So our deficit for this year sits at $10 million, primarily because of an accounting stroke of a pen that the money wasn't received on Friday, it was received on Tuesday. And that is the reason that deficit looks like that. It makes no material difference to this organisation, how it runs, but it is a stroke of when it turned up in the bank account. And this is just, we call ourselves a modern Western society. We're trying to we have $1 billion of assets under management. We're a significant organisation as far as 85 odd million again in this year's budget. And we have to plan for not only this year's budget, quite accurately over the next 3 years, 10-year financial forecast, and they can't tell us from 1 year to the next, which with local government's share of the GST, the financial, they cannot tell us from 1 year to the next how much we're going to get and when they're going to pay it. I have great faith in our other levels of government that they aren't that disorganised. And it would be something that LGAQ and ALGA will continue to advocate for, and individual councils like ourselves will continue to advocate for. This has to change. You cannot run a business like this. You cannot run an organisation like this not knowing what they're going to do. And we cannot consistently continue to cop the reduction of $500,000 odd a year in our financial assistance grant. Thank you for, and apologies if it sounded like a sermon, but it just frustrates you no end that you sit in this chamber, staff and councillors argue over a $10,000 payment to XYZ, and it's quite a vigorous argument because we're trying to save money, and within a stroke of a pen, we lose 600,000.
So thank you, CEO Mark, for your passion, because we actually were at the ALGA conference. It was Councillor Little and Councillor Height and myself, and the first address was from the local government minister, and she was saying that, that the money had gone into the bank accounts and that everybody had a rise. And I was able to, as the first speaker at the conference, to say no, ours came in after the 30th of June, and we actually lost 500,000. Well, it's actually more than that, but at that time I was briefed that it was 500,000. But but certainly the other Queensland councils lost money as well. I'm not sure about some of the other states, but every single council there was singing from the same song sheet. They all want the FAGS grant to be not like given in that one financial year, and to be a consistent amount so that you can budget for it. So they all share your concerns, CEO Mark, and calling on the state government, the federal government, to do that. And even when Anthony Albanese was on the podium and the question was asked of him, he would not commit to that. They're more interested in giving grants that you have to actually apply for, because then they can cut ribbons. They're not keen on the FAGS grant because it's just a one-off payment, which is not, it's unallocated, so then they don't get to say, well, let's do this or that. So, yeah, there's certainly the conference shared your concerns, and this council was well and truly flagging that it is an issue, and the LGAQ and the ALGA, they're definitely advocating for this. They're all on the same page. So yes. So is there any other speakers to this particular statement of estimated financial position? Did anyone else want to comment? Councillor Height.
I would just say I think I'll thank our CEO, Mark, very much for his comments that we certainly all agree with, that we are busting a gut trying to do the right thing, and it is very frustrating, and we appreciate you battling for us as well. Thank you.
So I think the press would see the CEO's frustration. I think there was 2 pages on just specifically on the FAGS grant and how disappointed we are. So certainly thank you for advocating for us. Any other speakers? If not, I'll put the statement of estimated financial position report. It's been moved by Councillor Dineen, seconded by Councillor Little. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Now we're moving on to 6.6, differential general rates, categories and criteria on page 121. So the officer's recommendation is that South Bennett Regional Council adopt differential general rates for the year ending the 30th of June 2025. Number 2, pursuant to Section 81 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the categories into which rateable land is categorised, the description of those categories, and in accordance with Sections 81.4 and 81.5 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the method by which land is to be identified and included in its appropriate category is as listed in the table below. And number 3, Council delegates to the Chief Executive Officer the power, in accordance with Sections 81.4 and 81.5 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, to identify the rating category to which each parcel of rateable land belongs. Could I have a mover? Councillor Little, seconded Councillor Height. Any speakers? No speakers? Okay. So it's been moved and seconded, so I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 6.7, adoption of the differential general rates 2024-25 on page 136. So the officer's recommendation is that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 80 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the differential general rate to be made and levied for each differential general rate category for the year ending the 30th of June 2025 is as follows. There's a table there. Do I need to read those all, CEO Mark? As tabled. So someone move that. Deputy Mayor Potter, someone to second that. Councillor Erkins. Any speakers? Councillor Erkins.
I think just bringing it out like this, it really doesn't show to our community how much discussion was had in our workshops on these things, and it's very pleasing to us to be able to rate the wind farms this time, which we weren't able to do previously. So small recompense to some people who don't like them, but a little pleasing to councillors. It increases our income a little, which saves others.
Thank you, Councillor Erkins. Councillor Hyde?
Yeah, just on page 13, well, I've got 135, I'm not sure, with the shopping centres, if General Manager Jarvis could just explain why the largest shopping centre has the lower rate. I think it's to do with the minimums, but I thought it would be worth explaining if you would, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, Councillor, the valuation, I think, is, from memory, is about 5 million or something. So it goes on the rate on the dollar for the valuations. So that's why they're rated at a lower rate to bring the cost down. If we rated at the higher rate as per the other shopping centres, I think they pay 80,000, yes, 80,000 a year in rates as it is. So anything over that would be unsustainable for them.
Thank you.
Any other speakers? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Now we're moving on to item 6.8 on page 139. The officer's recommendation that in accordance with Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 77 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the minimum general rate to be made and levied for the year ending 30th of June 2025 for each differential general rate category is as follows, and it's tabled. That's on page 139. So someone to move that. Councillor Height, seconded Councillor Deneen. Any speakers? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 6.9, averaging land valuations, 2024-2025 on page 141. The officer's recommendation is that pursuant to Section 74 and 76 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, for the purpose of making and levying differential general rates for the 24-25 financial year, the rateable value of land is the 3-year averaged value of land. And I did speak about that in my budget address. We do that to minimise the impact of the peaks of high valuations on some particularly rural properties. So someone to move that. Councillor Deneen, seconded Councillor Little. Speakers, Councillor Height.
I'll just ask a question to, probably through you, Madam Mayor, to GM of Finance. Will this apply to the wind farms where there has been a big change in valuations?
Kerry, did you want to answer that?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. So yes, all rateable properties. So even when they're a new property during, say, the year, so they haven't actually had 3 years for that parcel of evaluation, there's an averaging factor that the system works out that needs to be utilised to make sure that it's still fair for those new properties with valuations.
Thank you, Kerry. So any other questions or comments? Councillor Sandra, I can't see your microphone, so I can't tell if you... Yeah, okay, sorry. Any more speakers? If no, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Now we're moving on to 6.10, business activities on page 143, item 6.10. Officer's recommendation that in relation to Council's business activities, in accordance with the Local Government Act 2009, Division 2, Section 43, and the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council determines that as shown in the Statement of Significant Business Activities, Table 1, it has no significant business activities that meet the threshold set as per Section 19 of the Local Government Regulation 2012. Number 2, Council determines that those business activities categorised as prescribed business activities and listed in the Statement of Prescribed and Other Business Activities, Table 2, are those activities that meet the prescribed activity threshold of $340,000 or more in accordance with Section 39 of the Local Government Regulation 2012. Number 3, Council resolved not to apply the Code of Competitive Conduct to any business activity in 24-25 in accordance with the Local Government Act 2009, Section 47(7) and the Local Government Regulation 2012. To someone to move that? Councillor Little, seconded Councillor Height. I might just ask, it's a fair mouthful, someone to explain what that actually means. General Manager Jarvis.
Through you, Madam Mayor. It's to generalise it there, Madam Mayor. It's prescribed in the Act that we do any business units over the 340,000. Technically, we would have to apply full cost pricing recovery on it. So we make the decision there to set the impact on the ratepayers and that. We make the decision that it's an unfair burden placed on the ratepayers if we were to declare them as prescribed activities.
Thank you. Councillor Sander.
In the report, under Section 2, it's got about the combined water and sewage with 10,000 or more premises. What effect is that going to have, and where are we situated at the moment with becoming close to that 10,000 connections?
Yeah. Through you, Madam Mayor. There is a figure here. We're very, very close to it, Councillor. I'll just have to find it. Yes. So this financial year we will be modelling going forward what this will look like with full cost pricing as well as with the water department.
9863 in the report.
Yes, yes, we're very, very close.
So what effect will that have on this going forward?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it will have to go into full cost pricing, so that we'll have to recover exactly the expenditure that we're that is going against the council there, full recovery.
So that, I think Councillor Sanders is asking, is that going to be like a high, that'll be a higher price, higher charge to the affected ratepayers?
Yes, that's correct.
Potentially, yes.
Yes.
So that'll only affect the ones that connect after the 10,000, or it'll go across the board?
Yeah, all of them. Oh, sorry, through. Yes, all of them. It'll affect everyone then, Councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's probably going to be fairly challenging. Yeah, something to try and manage as we go forward. So it's been moved by Councillor Little, seconded by Councillor Height. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to item 6.11, special charge rural fire brigades. The officer's recommendation that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 94 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 and Section 12(8)(a) of the Fire and Emergency Services Act 1990. Number 1, council make and levy a special charge to be known as the Rural Fire Levy Special Charge of $25 per rateable assessment on all rateable land within the region to which the overall plan applies, that also tracks a Class E emergency management levy pursuant to Part 3 of the Fire and Emergency Services Regulation 2011 to fund the operations of the rural fire brigades that operate throughout the rural areas of the South Burnett region. Number 2, the overall plan for the Rural Fire Levy Special Charge is as follows. A, the rateable land to which the plan applies is all rateable land within the region, other than rateable land that is liable to pay an urban district fire levy pursuant to Section 107 of the Fire and Emergency Services Act 1990. B, the service, facility or activity for which the plan is made is the ongoing provision and maintenance of rural firefighting equipment for the rural fire brigades that operate throughout the rural areas of the region. C, the time for implementing the overall plan is 1 year, commencing 1st of July 2024 and ending the 30th of June 2025. D, the estimated cost of implementing the overall plan for the 24-25 year is $214,525. And A, the level of contribution each brigade receives will be decided by the local area Rural Fire Services Committee. Someone to move that? Councillor Height. Someone to second that? Councillor Sander. Any questions? Councillor Height.
No, I'd just like to acknowledge I'm very pleased we do this. I think it's very important to support our rural fire services. They do a fantastic job and very much appreciate what they do across our region. So certainly very supportive of this.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. I think it works really well. Oh, Councillor Erkins.
Can I just also add, I think that most of these rural fire brigades are really in need of more volunteers. So just like to put that out there, that anyone who feels the need, it's a great opportunity. It's also a great opportunity to mix with your neighbours and learn a little bit about your community. So I would encourage residents to make inquiries and see what they can do to assist and join these brigades.
100% agree. And I think that this levy works really well. There's a committee that meet and I think all the brigades put in their budget and so it's a good way of making sure that they're getting the funding that they need to keep going. So they do an amazing job. So it's been moved by Councillor Height and seconded by Councillor Sander. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 6.12, adoption of discounted rates 24-25. Officer's recommendation that pursuant to Section 130 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the differential general rates, wastewater utility charges, water access charges, refuge collection charges, including recycling, made and levied shall be subject to an early payment discount of 10% if paid within the discount period of 30 days of the date of issue of the rate notice, provided that number 1, all of the above aforementioned rates and charges are paid within 30 days of the date of issue of the rate notice. Number 2, all other rates and charges appearing on the rate notice that are not subject to discount are paid within 30 days of the date of issue of the rate notice. And number 3, all other overdue rates and charges relating to the rateable assessment are paid within 30 days of the date of issue of the rate notice. Moved by Councillor Potter, seconded by Councillor Little. Councillor Potter.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, as we sort of have all mentioned earlier, you know, we don't like putting up the rates. None of us like paying the rates, but I just want to put it out there that those of you that are struggling paying your rates, please come and see us at council because we have a hardship policy and it's there for anyone to help you do a payment plan. And we're more than happy to sit down with you. Susan and the finance team are more than ready to sit down, and we'd rather you come early than leave it to too late. So you come in now and have a chat with us.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. That's a really good point. So any other speakers? So it's been moved by Councillor Sander. No, I think it was moved by Councillor Potter and seconded by Councillor Little. Put put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 6.13, adoption of exemptions and concessions on various special separate and utility charges 24-25. It's on page 151. Officer's recommendation that number 1, pursuant to section 93 of the Local Government Act 2009, Council provides an exemption of differential general rates and separate charges for properties as identified within the categories per the table below. Number 2, pursuant to sections 120, 121 and 122 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council grants a rebate for various rates and charges for the financial year 30th of June 2025 as identified in the table below and subject to the following. A, property owners must notify Council immediately if there is a substantive change in land use for a property that is receiving a rate concession. Number B, applications received during the current financial year that fall within the categories below will be granted a rate concession following the passing of a resolution by Council. And C, if a property has been granted a rate concession in the previous financial year, the owner will not be required to reapply to receive the rate concession for the current financial year. However, proof of ongoing eligibility will be required if requested. And there's a table below. I might just, will I read those out or we just as tabled? So the concession categories are Queensland Country Women's Association, Youth Accommodation, Youth Groups, Scouts, Guides, Seniors and Welfare Groups, Kindergarten Services and other clubs, showgrounds, race grounds, museums, theatres, heritage, sporting grounds and associations, charitable organisations and community-owned halls. So I'll ask for a mover, Councillor Potter, seconded, Councillor Sander. Speakers, Deputy Mayor Potter.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. Look, this is something that we do every year, and I do think that this is one of our, as you would say, Madam Mayor, our good news stories. It's not spread around enough, as far as I'm concerned, because we give, this is over 300, I think it's about $375,000 worth of rebates and concessions that we, or concessions that we give to all of these different community groups. And I really don't think as a council that this is talked about enough. So I would just like to, the media here, understand that this is something that we do every year. We're not asked, we don't have to, but we still do it for our community.
Thank you. Well said, Deputy Mayor Potter. Any other speakers? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 6.14, adoption of the concession of water consumption charges, hemodialysis machines, 24-25. Officer's recommendation that pursuant to sections 120, 121 and 122 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council allows an annual rebate of 190 kilowatts on the water usage for any patient who qualifies for and operates a home hemodialysis machine supplied by Queensland Health. The owner of the testable backflow prevention device that supplies water to a home hemodialysis machine is exempted from the yearly lodgement fee. The Form 9 and testing remains a requirement under plumbing legislation. Someone to move that? Deputy Mayor Potter, seconded by Councillor Dineen. Speakers? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. The next item is on page 156, item 6.15, adoption of the setting of concession on rates and charges for approved pensioners 24-25. Officer's recommendation that pursuant to sections 120, 121 and 122 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, a rebate of rates be granted to all ratepayers who are pensioners and who are eligible for the Queensland Government pension remission. The rebate will be set at 1, 20% of the differential general rates, sewage utility charges, water utility charges and waste refuge utility charges, and 2, the maximum concession granted per property shall be capped at $200 per annum. Number 3, an additional concession of 50% of the waste recycling collection charge be allowed for eligible pensioners who pay for a recycling service. And number 4, eligibility will be based on the below criteria in accordance with policy and procedures for the Queensland Government Pensioner Rate Subsidy Scheme. A, the pensioner must hold an eligible pensioner concession card or a DVA gold card for all conditions. B, property where the subsidy is applied for must be the pensioner's principal place of residence. And C, the pensioner must be listed on the certificate of title of the property. Someone to move that? Councillor Height. Someone to second that? Councillor Sander. Speakers? So I'll put it, Councillor Erkins.
Yeah, I'd just like to make note that everyone was very pleased to be able to offer this discount. Again, it's not something that we have to do, and very pleased to do it.
Thank you, Councillor Erkins. No more speakers. I'll put to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Number 6.16 on page 158, adoption of waiving minimum general rates. Officer's recommendation is that the committee recommends to council that pursuant to sections 120, 121 and 122 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, council grants a rebate equal to the full value of the separate charges and part of the differential general rates equal to the difference between the minimum differential general rate for the appropriate category and the rate calculated using the rate in the dollar and the valuation for the properties identified here under. Number 1, any rateable land held as a permit to occupy for water facility purposes, namely bore and pump site and associated purposes only. Number 2, properties that are small parcels of land worked in conjunction with properties held in the same ownership and identified in table here under. And we've got 2, access number 31384 Hebble Drive Tablelands and access number 315981 Bradley's Road, Woorondon. Someone to move that? Councillor Erkins. Someone to second that? Councillor Potter. Does someone want anyone questions? Councillor Erkins.
Oh, sorry.
Any questions? Councillor Sander.
What are these 2 properties for?
General Manager Jarvis.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, they're just pump sites, councillor. Hence the resolution, they're only small parcels, yes.
Any other questions? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 6.17 on page 160, interest on overdue rates. Officer's recommendation is that pursuant to section 133 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, compound interest on daily rests at the rate of 8.17% per annum is to be charged on all overdue rates or charges. Number 2, South Bennett Regional Council determined that rates or charges will be considered as overdue for the charging of interest if they remain unpaid after 60 days from the due date of the relevant rate notice. So someone to move that? Councillor Erkins, seconded Councillor Little. Any speakers? Councillor Erkins.
I'm just following up probably on what Councillor Potter said. It's really, really important. Council are not in the role of wanting to take anyone's properties back and sell them. If you are having issues paying rates, please contact our rates team. They are more than happy to work out payment plans. If you just ignore it and let it go, you're up for costs, you're up for legal fees, and you're going to get further behind. So please make sure anyone who is having difficulties, make sure you contact the rating team. They honestly are, great to work with, and they'll work it in. We don't want to be in that position where we are looking at taking people's properties for unpaid rates to recover rates for our community. So again, contact council.
Thank you, Councillor Erkins. GM Jarvis, would you like to comment?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, and I do appreciate that, councillor, that my team are more than happy there to assist anybody having difficulty there paying their rates, and that we're only too happy to assist. So they just have to contact us, and we'll certainly do everything we can to ensure that they can pay their rates there at a reasonable rate. I just want to highlight again, Councillor Potter was saying about good news stories, and this again is another one, a decision I think was very a great decision of councils there, that on this interest here, that each year the Department of Housing, Local Government and Planning and Public Works publishes the maximum interest rate that we can charge on overdue rates. Their suggestion this year was 12.35%. Now, Council, you made the resolution here to keep the interest rate constant that we're now charging, which is 8.17%. So I just thought that would be appropriate to highlight that to the community, that you didn't take the higher rate there. That was just another concession that Council has made.
Thank you, GM Susan. Councillor Erkins.
Just further to that, I'd just like to say that I have had a number of people who have contacted me, and not only that that they maybe got behind, but there did been, some problems with their rates, and they all came back to me and really gave very high praise to the rating department. I just do want to follow that on and thank you, because some of those people are quite distressed when they ring you up, and it's really good that they can talk to somebody. They're treated with respect, and everything's worked out. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Erkins. Yeah, I 100% agree. I've had some appeal to me and sent them to the finance team, and they've really looked after them. So we're ready to vote. So it's been moved by Councillor Erkins, seconded by Councillor Little. We'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. The next item is 6.18 on page 162. The officer's recommendation is that pursuant to Section 107 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 and Section 114 of the Fire and Emergency Services Act 1990, council's rates and charges and the state government's emergency management fire and rescue levy be levied. A, for the half of the year 1st of July 2024 to the 31st of December 24 in August 24, and B, for the half year 1 January 25 to 30th of June 25 in February 2025. Pursuant to Section 118 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the council's rates and charges and the state government's emergency management fire and rescue levy be paid within 30 days of the issue of the rate notice. Someone to move that? Councillor Deneen, seconded Councillor Height. Speakers? Everyone happy? Put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 6.19 on page 164, Proston Common Effluent Disposal Utility Charges 2024-25. The officer's recommendation is that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy sewage utility charges for the supply of sewage services by the Council as follows. The following utility charges be made and levied for the provision of a common effluent disposal system for the year ended the 30th of June 2025. Number 1, in respect of all lands and premises which are connected to Council's common effluent disposal system. A, for the first pedestal connected to the system, a charge of $476 per annum per pedestal. B, other than additional pedestals installed in a private residence for the sole use of the occupier and their family, all additional pedestals will be levied a charge of $381 per annum per additional pedestal for hospital and education facilities. Number 2, $381 per annum per additional pedestal for all other categories. And C, where any premises not connected to the council common system become connected during the year, the charges under clause A1 shall become operative from the date of connection with proportionate rebate from that date. A charge of $99 per annum will apply to vacant land that is capable of being connected to the system. Someone to move that? Councillor Little, seconded by Deputy Mayor Potter. Speakers? All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. So we're moving on to item 6.20 on page 166. And that's to do with community rescue and evacuation. Officer's recommendation that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 103 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy a separate charge to be known as the Community Rescue and Evacuation Separate Charge in the sum of $5 per rateable assessment to be levied equally on all rateable land in the region for the purpose of sponsoring the aerial emergency rescue and evacuation transport providers that service the South Burnett region. Someone to move that? Councillor Erkins. Someone to second that? Councillor Sander. Any speakers? Councillor Erkins.
I just think that this is such a great thing. It's such a great service. Anybody who lives anywhere near the hospitals will hear how many times that helicopter comes in and leaves. And if you're in a small community, you know that 9 times out of 10, it's going to be someone on that helicopter that you know, or they could be a family member. And I think it's just a great service, and we're very lucky to actually have the service here. In fact, if anyone has had a family member who's been taken out, you'll find that quite often the patient is actually in hospital and receiving, medical health assistance a lot quicker than they would be if you lived in a suburb in Brisbane. So it's a great thing, and as a ratepayer myself, I'm very thankful for it and happy to contribute to it, as I'm sure all our community would be, because not many people who don't know somebody who has been helped by that service.
Yeah, so I can remember when one of the floods was on, the helicopter actually landed on the Mandubba-Geelong road. It was safe to land on the road because the bridges were all cut, and someone had a heart attack at Paduma Homestead, and it was a good news story. They were survived, but that was the helicopter actually landed on Mandubba-Geelong road. So it is an amazing service. Councillor Height?
Yeah, I would just make the comment that it is a fantastic service and I'm fully supportive. I think it's disappointing that they have to rely on donations. It's a disadvantage of living in a rural area. It should be funded by the state government.
Thank you, Councillor Height. GM Susan?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to bring to Council's attention as well that not everyone is happy to contribute to this, but the ATO, if anyone, because it's a donation to a charity, if you take your rates notice or on your tax to the ATO, they will acknowledge that as a donation. So the community needs to know that. Thank you. And also I agree with you, Councillor, as you know, my husband had a heart attack 2 years ago, and he was in Brisbane in 35 minutes. And we often hear the helicopters. We live behind the hospital, and they come and go all hours of the night and morning, and it's a wonderful service.
Yes. Councillor Sander?
I don't know whether everyone in here knows, but my daughter Summer would not be here without Life Flight. I just wanted to mention that 3 years ago she was airlifted out, and she was in Brisbane receiving treatment by the time I left the Mergen Hospital and drove back to the Bajocki-Peterson Dam. I had photos coming in of her being treated in Brisbane.
That's fantastic. Yep. Yeah, that keeps it real. It's happening in our backyard. So thank you for sharing that story. Councillor Potter?
Thank you. So, along with Councillor Sanders, I too want to say that my daughter would not be alive today because about 4 weeks ago she was airlifted out from Kingaroy, and if it wasn't for Life Flight, I would not have my daughter here today.
Oh wow! Yeah. So that there again, another Councillor Erkins.
I'm not going to go through my family. I got a few, but one of the things that I want to encourage our community. I know that Councillor Potter is very involved in fundraising for Life Flight, and to encourage, they normally have a dinner once a year, which is one of their major fundraisers, and I'd just like to encourage our community, where possible, to keep an eye out for that and grab a ticket, because that's one of the way they raise funds. So thank you. Thanks to Councillor Potter.
Thanks, Councillor Erkins. So any other speakers? So it's been moved by Councillor Erkins and seconded by Councillor Sander. Put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Thank you. Moving on to item 622 on page 170, setting of wastewater utility charges 24-25. Oh, sorry, 621. Separate charge waste management levy 2024-25. Officer's recommendation that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 103 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy a separate charge to be known as the Waste Management Separate Charge in the sum of $213 per rateable assessment, to be levied equally on all rateable land in the region for the purpose of 1, providing and maintaining waste facilities and services that are not met from other fees and charges collected on a user pays basis. And number 2, meeting public expectations in matters associated with the disposal and management of refuge that affect public health and visual amenity of the area. Someone to move that? Councillor Little, seconded Councillor Height. Speakers, Councillor Sander.
Like I said earlier, when we were elected, we promised that we were going to try and keep increases at the lowest we could, if any at all. But after receiving the information that we've received about the waste and our tips in the region and the compliance that we have to do with state government legislation, it's, you know, as much as we hate this increase and we're going to get hammered by everyone for it, if they understood where we were and what was happening, they too would come to the same agreement as what we've had to with this.
Thank you, Councillor Sander. Any other speakers? Okay, it is a big rise, and as Councillor Sander said, there's a lot of compliance issues and all sorts of things that need to happen with waste facilities. Back in the day, it was just people just dumped and no one took any notice much. But now, because of the environment and everything, that we're more conscious of doing things appropriately and correctly, it certainly comes at a cost. So, to Councillor Erkins?
So I was just going to follow up on that, the fact that these costs are put on us, you know, they're levies that are put on us and we have to comply. And as you mentioned, Mayor, it's not just a matter of taking it down the dump and throwing it out now. And, you know, there are big fines in place if you don't comply, but there are also levies for the rubbish that we dump, which is why, one of the reasons why we are doing the recycling and why we're really keen to see households use those recycle bins and make sure that we can cut down our rubbish that goes into landfill, because we are genuinely running out of landfill. And I just don't think the community really understand that the costs are put there by the government. We have to pay those costs, which we've got, the money's got to come from somewhere, and it comes from our community.
That's exactly right. And also like to thank the community for the recycling and what they've been doing. And I've actually, yesterday we had in Blackbutt, the Lions Club wanting to have a bin that they could manage in the town so that they could collect the recycling there too. So just well, I think you were there, Acting GM Leanne, when they were talking about it, because potentially we could put them in all the towns and the community clubs could, you know, encourage people to recycle and perhaps get some dollars for their containers for change. So, yeah, it's good that the community has come on board with all of the waste management and recycling and realising what we're dealing with as far as compliance. So I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 6.22 on page 170, setting of wastewater utility charges 24-25. The officer's recommendation is that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy sewerage utility charges for the supply of sewage services by the Council as follows. In respect of all lands and premises which are connected to or capable of connection to Council's reticulated sewage systems, the following utility charges be made and levied for the provision of wastewater services for the year ended the 30th of June 2025, except for the Proston Common Effluent Disposal System. Number 1, in respect of all lands and premises which are connected to Council's wastewater systems. A, for the first pedestal per building connected to any of Council's wastewater systems, a charge of $808 per annum per pedestal. B, other than additional pedestals installed in a private residence for the sole use of the occupier and their family, all additional pedestals per building will be levied a charge of $646 per annum per additional pedestal for hospital and education facilities, $646 per annum per additional pedestal for all other categories. C, in respect of each allotment of vacant land rateable under the Local Government Act 2009 situated within the declared wastewater areas defined in Schedule A of the Revenue Statement, except for the Proston Common Effluent Disposal System, a charge of $580 per annum will apply. And D, where any premises not connected to the council's wastewater system become connected during the year, the charges under Clause A1 shall become operative from the date of connection, with proportionate rebate from that date of those made under Clause A3. Someone to move that? Councillor Potter. Someone to second that? Councillor Deneen. Speakers? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 6.23 on page 172, Special Charge Annual Implementation Plan Road Maintenance Burrabi Road Quarry 2024-25. Summary. The officer's recommendation that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 94 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, number 1, council make and levy a special charge on the Burrabi Road Quarry situated of $10,696.77. It should be, I think it should be situated on land described as Lot 67 on BO 576 or 1229 Burrabi Road, Geelong, at the cost of $10,696.77 in the 2024-25 financial year to fund road maintenance and reconstruction costs associated with the operation of the extractive industry operation at the site. And number 2, the council adopts the annual implementation plan and the proposed special charge for 24-25 financial year pursuant to the Revenue Policy 24-25 and the Revenue Statement 24-25. Someone to move that? Councillor Little. Someone to second that? Councillor Height. Any speakers? GM Aaron?
Through you, Madam Mayor, you're right. It's situated and of should just be around the other way. So it should be make a special charge of $10,696 on land situated as described, Lot 67. So just a mix of the words that we can correct, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Just by way of overview, if I may, Madam Mayor, just for council. So special rates, we bring down special rates once a year on quarries that have had a DA after a period of time. Historical quarries often not levied with special charges, and we do that on the basis that we don't differentially rate quarries as a special category, and it basically manages their impact. The quarries are assessed based on their volume and tonnage that they transport on the road, and they pay an annual contribution to the accelerated degradation of an asset, of how much pavement they might damage, and they also pay a contribution to maintenance. And the reason why we do that particularly is acts as a deterrent of maintenance. So if quarry operators travel through the wet and trash a road, then the maintenance costs go up on their road and also do their charges the following year. So just for council's interest, we will be doing a review of the special rates and charges later this year, and also reviewing the tonnages from these quarries as well to make sure that we're operating accordingly.
Thank you, GM Meehan. So we just changed that wording. So it's just council make and levy a special charge of $10,696.77, and the rest is as tabled. So it's been moved by Councillor Little and seconded by Councillor Height. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. We're moving on to page 175, item 6.24, Special Charge Annual Implementation Plan Road Maintenance Manar Road Quarry 24-25. Officer's recommendation is that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 94 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, number 1, council does not levy a special charge on the Manar Road Quarry situated on land described as Lot 7 on BO 179 or 1551 Manar Road, Banduma, in the 2024-25 financial year, as the quarry has not commenced significant operations. And number 2, that council adopts the annual implementation plan and the proposed special charge for 24-25 financial year pursuant to the revenue policy 24-25 and the revenue statement 24-25. Someone to move that? Councillor Potter, seconded Councillor Little. Speakers? Put it to the... Councillor Erkins.
Can I just have some clarification? So if we can do that with quarries, why can't we do it with other industries?
GM Meehan.
We'd have to take that on notice, Madam Mayor, and probably seek some advice on which industries you want to do and what
In particular, I'm thinking logging trucks.
Yeah, I'd have to take that one on notice, Councillor.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Erkins. Any other questions or speakers? All good. Okay, so it's been moved by Councillor Potter and seconded by Councillor Little. Put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to page 178, item 6.25. The officer's recommendation is that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 94 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, number 1, council does not levy a special charge on the Tim Dwyer Road quarry situated on land described as Lot 169 on CSH 697 or 79 Tim Dwyer Road, East Nanengo in the 24-25 financial year, as the quarry has not commenced significant operations. And number 2, that council adopts the annual implementation plan for the 24-25 financial year pursuant to the revenue policy 24-25 and the revenue statement 24-25. Someone to move that? Councillor Height, seconded Councillor Deneen. Any questions? Put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Now we're moving on to 6.26 on page 182. Special charge annual implementation plan road maintenance Wattle Grove Road quarry. Officer's recommendation is that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 94 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, number 1, council make and levy a special charge to be known as the Kingaroy Quarry Supplies Wattle Grove Road Special Charge of $9,139 on land described as Lot 2 on SP 31268, previously Lot 459 on FY 1925 and situated at 1304 Wattle Grove Road, Wattle Grove, to fund road maintenance and reconstruction costs associated with the operation of the extractive industry operation at this site. And that number 2, that council adopts the annual implementation plan and the proposed special charge for 24-25 financial year pursuant to the revenue policy 24-25 and the revenue statement 24-25. Ask for a mover. Councillor Potter, seconded Councillor Little. Speakers? All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to page 186, item 6.27, special charge annual implementation plan road maintenance Wilson's Road Quarry 24-25. The officer's recommendation is that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 94 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, number 1, council make and levy a special charge to be known as the Gordon Brook Sand Quarry Wilson's Road Special Charge of $8,035.09 on land described as Lot 49 on BO 544 and situated at Wilson's Road, Gordon Brook, to fund road maintenance and reconstruction costs associated with the operation of the extractive industry operation at the site. And number 2, that council adopts the annual implementation plan and the proposed special charge for 2004-2005 financial year pursuant to the revenue policy 24-25 and the revenue statement 24-25. Someone to move that? Councillor Height, seconded Councillor Deneen. Speakers? All those in favour? Councillor Height.
Oh, got to be quick. Just a quick question. That Wilson's Road is very long. Does that come into the consideration? And it's an expensive one to maintain.
GM Meehan.
Through Madam Mayor, it's a shortened section on Wilson's Road, so it goes through from the quarry to Memorandum Gordon Brook Road, so it's a separated section. Yep.
Thank you. Are we ready to vote? It's been moved by Councillor Hyde, seconded by Councillor Dineen. Put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. So now we're moving. Oh, CEO Mark.
So, Mayor, given the length of these, because of the required legislation, would suggest just as tabled, because you've got 2 pages odd of resolution or more, and then the maps.
Well, I thought the councillors would like to sit through that. Okay. I'm disappointed. Okay, so would I need to read just this first section? Okay, so the item 6.28, waste collection utility charges 2425. The officer's recommendation is that in accordance with section 9.4 of the Local Government Act 2009 and section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, council make and levy waste management utility charges for the supply of waste management services, including the storage, collection and removal of general waste on all land and structures to which a waste management service is applied, or in the case of rateable land which is occupied, made available by council as follows. And there's a tabled list there. Council's discretion to levy waste management utility charges. And there's a whole service category. And there we've got charges per service and the definitions. So I'll ask someone to move that. Councillor Erkins. Someone to second that. Councillor Potter. Any speakers? No speakers. Put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Just for the benefit of those online, we've got Maps, Proston Designated Waste Collection Area, Heisel Designated Waste Collection Area, Mergen Designated Waste Collection Area, Wandai Designated Waste Collection Area, Tingura, Moffatdale, Memorandie, Warrulan, Wattle Camp, Sandy Ridges, Runnymede North, Runnymede South, Kingaroy North, Kingaroy South, Bowie, Nanengo, Blackbutt, Banarkin, Tilo and Toromeo, Ellesmere, Brooklands, Cumbia and Maidwell, all designated waste collection areas mapped. So now we're moving on to 6.29, water supply access charge methodology. So that's on page 206, and the officer's recommendation is that pursuant to section 92.4 of the Local Government Act 2009 and section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, council make and levy water utility charges based on the following methodology to determine water access charges to be levied for the financial year ending the 30th of June 2025 as follows. Number 1, a fixed charge for all connected and vacant not connected land covering the net costs associated with the source of supply, administration, technical overhead, depreciation and finance costs for each scheme area be levied on those lands receiving a supply or to which a supply is deemed to be available. And number 2, the basis of apportionment of this cost shall be the supply capacity made available to the connected premises as a measure of the proportionate share of the capacity of the system utilised by the connected property as listed in the table hereunder. And then there's a table. And then number 3, this direct correlation is varied as follows. All connections below 25 millimetres are deemed to be the same capacity. B, domestic properties which, due to low pressure related matters, only require the installation of a larger than normal 20 millimetre water meter are to be charged the equivalent of a 20 millimetre connection base charge. And C, domestic properties which, due to low pressure related matters only, require the installation of additional water meter are to be charged the equivalent of a single 20 millimetre connection base charge only. So, and there's and we've got, there's D to H. Do you want me to read them or no? Okay, as tabled. Someone to move that? Councillor Erkins and second Councillor Sander. Speakers. Councillor Erkins.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'd just like to assure our community that while we seem to be going through these and just approving everything, that we have had numerous workshops where we've had the opportunity to question staff on what actually is going on and why these charges are there and why different premises have different sizes. So I just don't want the community to think that we're unaware of what is happening here, because we have had, as I said, numerous workshops on pricings and on services and where all this is going, just to assure them that we're not all sitting here and in a hurry for morning tea.
Thank you, Councillor Erkins. Any other speakers? If not, it's been moved by Councillor Erkins and seconded by Councillor Sander. Some of it was tabled, but it's the water supply access charge methodology 24-25. So put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Moving to item 6.30 on page 208. Officer's recommendation is that this is to do with water supply charges 24-25. The pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy water utility charges set out in the table here under for the provision of water supply services, access charges for the financial year ended the 30th of June 2025. So we've got a table there. It's as tabled on page 208 and page 209. So someone to move that? Councillor Dineen, someone to second that? Councillor Erkins, speakers? No questions or statements? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to page 211 on item 6.31, water supply consumption charge methodology 24-25. The officer's recommendation is that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, and on the basis of the principles laid down in Council's revenue statement, Council make and levy water utility consumption charges for supply of water services as follows. Will I read those, CEO Mike? As tabled. So that it's in respect of water supply schemes of Blackbutt, Banduma Dam, Kingaroy, Cumbia, Mergen, Nanego, Proston, Tingura, Wando, Rurulan and Yalakul. Are there any questions? Councillor Sander? I'll just get a mover first, sorry. Councillor Potter and seconded Councillor Dineen. Councillor Sander.
Just with that Yalakul, we've had that name change. Can we get that documented to change to the Jockey Peterson Dam? We're trying to eliminate Yalakul everywhere and trying to brand it as the Jockey Peterson Dam.
Okay, that's a good point. So can we just change that in the report? In the motion?
I'd be hesitant to just at the minute. Certainly have noted the point, just depending, because it will refer back to the water areas. So we might need just to go backtrack a little bit and make sure that all the document is changed going forward.
Sorry.
No. It's actually no one else has picked it up. It's well spotted. But yeah, no, we'll need to just backtrack. If we could leave it today as it is, Mayor, and then we can change the documentation going forward.
Yes, are you happy with that, Councillor Sander?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so are we ready to, any questions? It's been moved by Councillor Potter and seconded by Councillor Dineen. So it's the water supply consumption charge methodology 24-25. Put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. So that's the last item. So I just wanted to just thank everyone for this budget. It has been a long road since we were all elected, and we tried to get our heads around getting this budget together. And just wanted to again thank the senior executive team, CEO Mark. It's been fantastic to help with navigating all of this. We've got some new councillors, a new team. Just want to again thank all of the councillors for your work, and we'll invite the everyone to morning tea. It's actually, we're going to be celebrating both CEO Mark and General Manager Jarvis's birthdays. So we've got a cake out there for both of you. So thank you everybody for your contribution to the budget today. And we will close the meeting now and invite the gallery and everyone to morning tea. Thank you.